David Morrison checked his watch for the third time in 2 minutes. Gate 47. Boarding in 20 minutes. He hadn't spoken to his daughter in 289 days. Not since she told him she was getting married and he said he was too busy to walk her down the aisle. "Are you as lonely as me, mister? My daddy left too. He said he was too busy. And then he died." Are you going to miss it? Miss what? The last time she needs you. Which one makes you less lonely? David Morrison checked his watch for the third time in 2 minutes. The Patek Philippe gleamed under the harsh fluorescent lights of Gate 47, a $40,000 reminder of every choice he'd ever made. Around him, the terminal pulsed with life. A father hoisted his squealing daughter onto his shoulders. A young couple embraced like the world might end. An elderly woman kissed her grandson's forehead. David sat alone. His phone buzzed. Sarah. Again. He watched her name flash across the screen, his thumb hovering before sliding to red. Decline. The 8th time today. He couldn't remember the last time he'd answered. Actually, he could. 289 days ago. The precision of it felt like a knife. She'd called to tell him she was getting married. To Daniel, the architect. She'd asked him to walk her down the aisle. He'd opened his calendar, seen the investor summit in Singapore, and said the words that now echoed in his skull like a death rattle. "I'm too busy, Sarah. Maybe your uncle could do it." The silence lasted 3 seconds. Then she'd said, very quietly, "Of course you are," and hung up. The phone buzzed again. He declined it again. His reflection stared back at him from the darkened screen. A stranger in an expensive suit with hollow eyes and a jaw tight enough to crack teeth. When had he become this? When did the corner office stop feeling like victory and start feeling like a tomb? A small sound cut through his thoughts. A sob, broken and raw. David looked up. A little girl stood 3 feet away, tears streaming down her cherubic face. She couldn't have been more than 6, wearing a red coat that was slightly too big and a pink backpack with a unicorn on it. Her brown hair was held back with a simple white clip. But it wasn't her appearance that froze him. It was her eyes. They were locked on his face with an intensity that felt like being seen for the first time in years. "Are you as lonely as me, mister?" The question hit him like a fist to the sternum. His mouth opened but no words came. The little girl took a step closer, wiping at her nose with the back of her hand. "My daddy left too," she said, her voice small but steady. "He said he was too busy. And then he died." David's heart stopped. The terminal noise faded to nothing. All he could hear was the rushing of blood in his ears and the terrible, perfect truth in a child's broken voice. David's legs moved before his brain caught up. He stood, grabbed his briefcase, turned away. He'd learned long ago that the best way to handle uncomfortable situations was to remove yourself. 3 steps toward Gate 52. 4. 5. He froze. Something in that child's voice had burrowed under his skin. found the soft places he'd spent decades protecting. He stood there, briefcase in hand, caught between walking away and something he couldn't name. "I'm Lily," the small voice said behind him. "What's your name?" David turned slowly. The little girl had stopped crying, but her eyes were still wet, still fixed on him. She wasn't looking around frantically. She was just standing there, waiting. "Are you lost?" he asked, his CEO voice slipping back into place. "Professional. Detached. Safe." "No," Lily said simply. "I'm waiting for someone. They're late." She tilted her head, studying him. "You have sad eyes. Like my mom's." The observation landed like a punch. David set his briefcase down. "I should find security. They can help you." "You didn't answer my question." Lily took a step closer. "Do you have kids?" His throat tightened. "Yes." "Do they know you love them?" The question hung in the air like smoke. David opened his mouth, but nothing came out. How do you explain to a 6-year-old that love and presence aren't the same thing? His phone buzzed. "Sarah." For the 9th time. Lily's eyes dropped to the screen in his hand. She read the name aloud, her voice soft. "Sarah. That's a pretty name." Something cracked in David's chest. He sank back into the airport seat, suddenly exhausted. Lily climbed into the chair beside him, her feet dangling several inches from the ground. They sat in silence for a moment, this broken CEO and this strange little girl who saw too much. "Why don't you answer?" Lily asked. "It's complicated." "That's what my daddy used to say." David looked at her. Really looked. The red coat was worn at the cuffs. Her shoes had been resoled. This wasn't a child from his world of private schools and trust funds. This was something real. "I'm sorry about your dad," he said quietly. "Me too." Lily swung her legs. "But at least he was trying. He was coming to see me when he crashed." The phone buzzed again. Not a call this time. A text. David's hand trembled as he opened it. "Dad, the wedding's off. Daniel left. I need you. Please." The words blurred. He read them again. Again. His daughter needed him. His daughter was hurting. His daughter had reached out one more time despite 289 days of silence. The airport speakers crackled to life. "Final boarding call for Flight 2847 to Tokyo. Gate 47. Final call. Tokyo. The Nakamura merger. $15 million. 5 years of negotiations coming to a head. His legacy. His empire. Everything he'd built." Lily's small hand touched his arm. "Which one makes you less lonely, mister?" David stared at the phone in his left hand, the boarding pass in his right. 2 pieces of paper. 2 different futures. Sarah's text glowed accusingly. "I need you. Please." "Which one makes you less lonely?" Lily asked again. The question opened a door in his mind he'd kept locked for years. Suddenly he was watching Sarah cross a stage in cap and gown. Magna cum laude. She'd searched the crowd for his face. He'd been in Hong Kong, shaking hands over merger documents. He'd sent flowers. Then her 21st birthday. The reservation she'd made. The dress she'd bought. He'd sent a text from an investor dinner. "So sorry, sweetheart. Next year for sure." She'd replied with a thumbs-up emoji. Nothing else. The phone call came 2 months later. Her voice had been flat. I don't need to check in anymore. I don't need you anymore. 289 days of silence proved she'd meant it. My daddy was like you, Lily said, pulling him back to the present. She was looking at her shoes, swinging her legs. He worked all the time. But he loved me. He said he did. David's chest tightened. I'm sure he did. He promised to come to my ballet recital. I was the swan. I practiced every day for 2 months. Her voice got smaller. He was late. I kept looking at the door. My teacher said to start without him. I thought maybe he'd make it for the second act. David closed his eyes. He knew how this story ended. There was an accident, Lily continued. On the highway. He was driving too fast because he was late. The police said he died instantly. She finally looked up at him. He was trying to make it. But it was too late. Lily, I'm so sorry. The words felt pathetically inadequate. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a photograph, edges worn from being handled too many times. She held it out to him. David took it with shaking hands. A little girl in a white tutu stood on a stage, arms raised in 5th position. In the audience, rows of proud parents watched. But one seat sat empty. Front row. Right in the middle. A reserved sign lay face down on the chair. Don't let Sarah have an empty seat, mister, Lily whispered. David stood abruptly, the photo still in his hand. His mind was a war zone. $15 million. 5 years of work. The Nakamura deal would make him legendary. But Sarah wouldn't be there to see it. Final boarding call for Flight 2847 to Tokyo. This is the final call. A gate agent appeared. Sir, are you boarding? It's now or never. David looked at the boarding pass. At his phone. At Lily's photograph of an empty seat. Now or never. Quick question. Have you ever felt successful on the outside but lonely on the inside? If this is hitting you right now, hit that like button. And if someone you know needs to hear this story, share it with them. Let's see what David does next. David's finger hovered over Sarah's name. The gate was still open. Passengers filing through. He could still make it. He pressed the call. It rang once. Twice. Third ring, she answered. Dad. Her voice was shattered glass. This wasn't childhood tears over scraped knees. This was someone broken by the one person who was supposed to protect her. Sarah. His own voice cracked. I got your text. Daniel said I'm too much like you. The words tumbled out like she'd been holding them in for hours. Cold. Unavailable. He said I don't know how to let people in. He said loving me is like loving a ghost. Each word was a knife. David closed his eyes. Sarah, I'm so sorry. For everything. Where are you? She asked it like she already knew the answer. Like she was just confirming what she'd always known about him. David looked at the gate. The line was thinning. The agent was checking her watch. I'm at the airport. The silence on the other end was worse than screaming. Of course you are. Sarah's voice had changed. The vulnerability was gone, replaced by something harder. Something that sounded too much like acceptance. Going somewhere important, I'm sure. Tokyo. Singapore. Somewhere that matters more than. Sarah. I shouldn't have texted. Her voice was ice now. I don't know why I thought this time would be different. Goodbye, Dad. Wait. David shouted it loud enough that people turned to stare. He didn't care. Wait. Please. Don't hang up. Behind him, the gate door closed with a heavy, final click. The gate agent appeared. Sir, you've missed your flight. If you need to rebook. I need to get off this flight, David said, still holding the phone to his ear. The agent looked confused. Sir, you're not on it. You never boarded. The words hung in the air. David stared at the closed gate door, at the jet bridge beyond it, at the plane that would leave without him. $15 million taxiing away. 5 years of work taking off into the sky. Sir. The agent prompted. I'm not going, David said quietly. I'm not going to Tokyo. He brought the phone back to his full attention. The line was still open. He could hear Sarah breathing, quick and uncertain. Sarah, are you still there? You missed your flight. Her voice was small now, confused. You never miss flights. I didn't miss it. David sank into the nearest chair, suddenly exhausted. I chose not to get on it. Why? Because you needed me. Because you texted. Because for once in my pathetic, selfish life, I'm going to be where I'm supposed to be. He took a shaking breath. I'm coming to Boston, Sarah. I'm coming to you. If you'll let me. The silence stretched so long he thought she'd hung up. Then, barely a whisper, Dad. I'm here, sweetheart. I'm here. I'm scared to believe you. I know. God, I know. I'm scared too. I'm not going to Tokyo, Sarah. David's voice shook. I'm coming to you. What about your deal? The Nakamura merger. $15 million. You can't just. I've made enough deals. I've only got one daughter. He could hear her breathing catch. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw Lily settling back into her seat, a small smile forming on her face like she'd known all along how this would end. Sarah, I need to say something. David's words tumbled out, 15 years of apologies compressed. I failed you. Not once, but consistently, for your entire life. I chose boardrooms over ballet recitals. Conference calls over your calls. I built an empire and lost my family. Sarah was crying now. He could hear it. You asked me once when I'd have time for you. You were 12. On a roll. You wanted dinner, just us. And I looked at my calendar and said, when I retire, sweetheart. You nodded like you understood. But I saw your face. And I went to my meeting anyway. I remember, Sarah whispered. I can't get those years back. I can't undo the damage I've done. But I'm here now. And if you'll let me, I want to spend whatever time I have left making it right. I don't know if I can trust you. Her voice was small, wounded. You've promised before. I know. I know I have. And I'll prove it. However long it takes. Days, months, years. I'll prove it. Lily tugged on his sleeve. David looked down to find her standing beside him, eyes wide and earnest. She stood on her tiptoes and whispered, Tell her you love her. David's throat tightened. Such a simple thing. Such an obvious thing. When had he last said it? Sarah. He had to force the words past the lump in his throat. I love you. I should have said it every single day. I should have said it more than I said I'm busy or not now or we'll talk later. I love you. I'm sorry it took me this long to remember that nothing else matters." For a moment, there was only silence and the sound of Sarah crying. Then, barely audible, "I love you too, Dad." David closed his eyes, tears finally spilling down his cheeks. Lily patted his arm. 20 minutes later, he had a new boarding pass. Boston. Gate 62. 2 hours. He tucked his phone into his pocket and turned to where Lily had been sitting. She was walking away, her small hand reaching up to grasp the hand of an older woman in a wheelchair. The woman wore a nurse's uniform, name tag catching the light. They were moving toward the exit, Lily chattering about something, the woman nodding and smiling. "Wait," David called out. "Lily, wait." But she was already disappearing into the crowd. David pushed through the crowd, eyes locked on the red coat ahead. He caught up near the exit. The woman in the wheelchair had kind eyes and silver hair. Her uniform read Patricia Chen, RN, Hospice Care. "How did it go today, sweetheart?" Patricia asked Lily. "I think I helped him, Grandma Pat. Like I helped the others." David stopped, something cold sliding down his spine. Patricia smiled. "I'm sure you did, love. You always do." "Excuse me," David said, stepping forward. Both turned to look at him. "I'm sorry to intrude, but I need to understand. Lily, your father." "Died 2 years ago," Patricia said softly. "On his way to her ballet recital. He was always working, always promising he'd make the next one. Finally, he left work early, tried to make it on time." She paused. "He was driving too fast." The truth settled over David like a weight. "So the story you told me was real," Lily said simply. "Every word." Patricia wheeled closer. "We come here every Tuesday. We look for lost people. Not the ones searching for gates. The ones running from something. I'm a hospice nurse. I spend my days with people at the end of their lives. You know what they regret." Patricia's eyes held his. Not the deals they didn't close. The time they didn't spend. The calls they didn't make. Lily's mother had been Patricia's patient. Stage 4 cancer. In the grief group afterward, Patricia saw what Lily was doing, asking other families the same questions. "Are you lonely? Do your kids know you love them?" "She's helped 4 to 7 people in 2 years," Patricia said, pulling a journal from her bag. Photos of families embracing. Handwritten notes. "I reconnected with my son after 10 years. Another, called my mother. She died 3 days later. I made it in time because of a little girl in a red coat." David's hand shook as he held the journal. "How did you find me?" Lily looked up at him with those impossibly wise eyes. "You looked like my daddy. The same sad eyes. The same expensive watch. The same way of checking your phone instead of looking at people." She reached out and touched his hand. "And you looked like you were running out of time." "I was," David whispered. "I am." "Not anymore," Lily said, smiling. "Now you're running toward something instead of away." Patricia checked her watch. "Your flight to Boston boards in an hour, Mr. Morrison. You should get to your gate." David stared at her. "How did you?" Lily's very observant. Patricia's smile was knowing. "Go to your daughter. Don't waste the gift you've been given." David found them at a cafe near Gate 52. Lily was drinking hot chocolate, marshmallows bobbing. Patricia gestured to the empty chair. Sit. You have time. He did. For the first time in years, he actually had time. One conversation can change a life, Patricia said, watching Lily lick chocolate from her upper lip. One life can change the world. That's not poetry. That's mathematics. Ripple effects. Butterfly wings. David looked at Lily. What made you so brave? To talk to strangers, to ask such hard questions. Lily's smile faded. I'm not brave. I'm just scared more people will run out of time. She set down her cup. What if I can stop it? What if I can make someone go home before it's too late? Tell him about the others, Patricia said gently. There was a woman in a business suit, crying in the bathroom. I asked if she was going to see her sick brother. She changed her ticket. He died 2 weeks later. She made it in time to say goodbye. An old man who hadn't spoken to his son in 15 years, Patricia added. Lily asked if he was lonely. He called his son from the airport. They had dinner that night. And the mom with 3 kids, going to a job interview. I asked if she missed her babies. She went home instead. David felt something shifting inside him. His pain wasn't unique. The airport was full of people running, convinced the next achievement would finally be enough. I want to help, David said. What do you need? He wrote a check, an amount that would have made his accountant faint. Patricia took it with steady hands. This is generous, she said. Money helps. It always helps. But Mr. Morrison, what would help more is if you told your story. David blinked. My story. How many other fathers are sitting in airports right now? Patricia leaned forward, running from what matters, telling themselves they'll make time later. How many are one conversation away from losing everything that actually counts? I don't. You have a platform, a voice, a company. Use it. Tell them what Lily taught you. Tell them what you almost lost. Tell them there's still time to turn around. The idea settled over David like a coat that fit perfectly. His company, his conferences, his speeches about efficiency and growth and maximizing shareholder value. What if he talked about something that actually mattered? Now boarding flight 1847 to Boston. All zones, gate 62. David stood. Lily jumped down from a chair and wrapped her arms around his waist. Thank you, he whispered into her hair. Thank you for listening, she whispered back. He was halfway to the gate when he turned back. They were still there, watching. Lily waved. David waved back, then ran toward his daughter. He just walked away from everything. For his daughter. If that gave you chills, smash that like button. And subscribe so these stories reach the people who need them most. Now let's see if Sarah gives him a chance. Boston was colder than David remembered. He stood outside Sarah's apartment building, staring at the buzzer. His finger hovered. The last time he'd been here, Sarah had cooked dinner. He'd spent the meal on his phone. Finally, she'd said, very quietly, I think you should leave, Dad. You're here, but you're not really here. And that hurts worse. He'd left. Told himself she was being unfair. He pressed the buzzer. Hello. Sarah's voice, thick with crying. It's me. The door buzzed open. He took the stairs, arrived at 3B breathless. Sarah stood in the doorway in sweatpants and an old t-shirt. Eyes red and swollen. She looked destroyed. For 10 seconds, they just looked at each other. Then Sarah's face crumpled and she fell into his arms, sobbing. David caught her, held her tight the way he used to when she was small. His own tears came, hot and long overdue. "I'm sorry," he whispered into her hair. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart." They ended up on her couch. Sarah curled into his side. Daniel said, "I don't know how to let people in. That I'm like you. Cold. That I'll end up alone." She wiped her eyes. "And the worst part. He's right." "I'm sorry I taught you that," David said. "Work became my hiding place. If I was busy enough, I didn't have to face how empty everything else was." "Why now?" Sarah pulled back to look at him. What changed? After all these years, why now? David told her about Lily, about the red coat and the questions that cut through his armor, about the father who died trying to make it to a ballet recital, about choosing Sarah over Tokyo. Sarah cried harder. "A little girl had to tell you what I've been screaming for years." Yes. The admission hurt. And I'm ashamed of that. But I'm here now. And I'm not leaving. He pulled out his phone, showed her the draft email to his board. His resignation as CEO. "Dad, no. Don't quit your company for me." "I'm not quitting. I'm restructuring. My priorities." He smiled through tears. "The company will survive without me working 80-hour weeks. You and I won't." Sarah stared at the email. At him. "Stay for dinner." "I'd love to." They cooked pasta together, something they'd never done. David burned the garlic. Sarah laughed, actually laughed. They talked about everything and nothing. About Daniel. About work. About the years they'd lost and the time they still had. His phone rang as they were sitting down. Unknown number. "Ignore it," Sarah said. David smiled. "Already did." Most. Now let's see if Sarah gives him a chance. David picked up the phone. "Hello." "Mr. Morrison, it's Patricia. I'm wondering if you're still willing to share your story." David looked at Sarah, smiling as she drained pasta. "Yes. I'd be honored." 6 months later, David stood at a podium facing 500 corporate leaders. He'd given this speech before, always about efficiency, growth. Today was different. "I was the CEO of a billion-dollar company," he began. "I had everything money could buy. And I was completely bankrupt in every way that mattered." He told them about Lily, about the question that changed everything, about choosing his daughter over a $15 million deal. In the third row, Sarah sat with tears streaming. David met her eyes and smiled. "A 6-year-old girl asked me if I was lonely," he said. "The answer was yes. The question is, are you?" The room was silent. Because if you are, you still have time to change it. But time runs out faster than you think. Before he'd finished, phones were coming out. Not for emails. For calls. A woman in the front row whispered, "I'm sorry, Mom," into her phone. A man was already heading for the exit, phone pressed to his ear. The montage of the next 6 months played out like a film. David and Sarah volunteering at Patricia's grief center, sorting donation letters. David teaching a business ethics class, the whiteboard behind him reading People Profits. Sarah in her art studio, showing him a painting while he beamed with pride, a grand opening banner visible in the background. Lily and Patricia at the airport again, Lily approaching a businessman with sad eyes. David's office, transformed. Family photos covering every surface, his awards boxed in the corner. On the wall, a new company motto: success is measured by who you have, not what you've achieved. David sat at his desk, reading a letter. I heard your speech at the summit. I called my daughter that night. We hadn't spoken in 3 years. Thank you for saving my family. Don't speed. I need you to get here alive. If this story made you think of someone you need to call, drop their name in the comments. Just their name. Sometimes writing it down gives you the courage to reach out. If you made it all the way here, subscribe for more stories that remind us what matters. Now go make that call.